I grew up in the suburbs of New York City with my mother, my father, and my brother Mason, who was 2 years younger than me. Growing up, Mason and I shared a love of skiing, playing and listening to music, sarcastic humor, and of course angering our parents. But more than anything, we shared a bedroom. For 16 years, my brother and I lived side by side next to each other on twin beds in the Colonial House's third floor, a room also known as the attic. This was not by any means the perfect setup for two brothers 2 years apart at pretty much any age of our childhoods. In fact, Mason and I fought constantly over anything we could possibly fight about, although our altercations would never usually exceed their 30-minute time span. However, interwoven in our fights and our rambunctiousness was the most valuable friendship of my life, and one that I will continue to cherish and appreciate. When I arrived at Middlebury College to begin my first semester, I was placed in a triple with two freshmen I had never met before. We never grew that close, and I soon began spending more time in my friend's room than I did in my own, which was fine by me. The next year, missing my life with Mason, I moved in with one of those friends, a sterling 6'5" Missourian named Ryan. Ryan and I developed a great relationship, and pretty soon our room was the social hub for all of our friends. We spent hours in there, playing video games, watching movies, or just hanging out and talking. It was a second nature for us to debrief anything that was happening in our lives. This developed into a valuable asset of support, and one that was difficult for me to leave behind. Although my heart was set on studying in beautiful Amsterdam, I was nervous at the prospect of having a room to myself for the first time in my life. I feared the boredom, the loneliness, and the inability to talk to someone whenever I needed an ear to listen or a shoulder to lean on would really affect me. It was just me, in my own echo chamber of a room. Unexpectedly, the first week felt like heaven on earth. I had no sleeping bodies around which I needed to quiet myself, and I spent countless hours singing and blasting music as loud as my speakers could do. I had no one looking over my shoulder, and I was free to watch all the stupid YouTube videos I could ever desire without even the slightest twinge of self-consciousness. I had no standards of cleanliness, as I held firm and complete control of exactly how messy or neat my room was at any given time. But quickly this experience became much more difficult. I spent more and more time in my room, as my solitude at times felt restrictive. I slept later, I spent more nights in. Once I realized things were starting to unravel, I knew I needed to make a change and salvage my abroad experience. Along with my friend Jack, I took my first trip of the semester to St. Anton am Arlberg, a ski town nestled in the Austrian Alps. With the towering Tyrolean peaks staring down at me, it felt like a crime to do anything but hike into the mighty hills, which is exactly what Jack and I did. We left our laptops at home and spent the weekend gallivanting across rocky traverses and mountain passes. It was just the shift in focus that I needed. When I returned to Amsterdam, I tried to harness that motivation. I remember the feelings of adventure I had obtained in the Alps and became headstrong in pursuing more excursions, across Amsterdam and beyond. I scoured through insider travel guides to explore areas I would have otherwise left untouched. I spent more time with my friend Jack, who stood by me through thick and thin as we explored the city together. I met up with friends and family in the foothills of Germany, the beaches of Barcelona, the canals of Venice, and the burning streets of Paris. In my mind, time alone, lounging in my room, was an evil that needed to be fought at all costs. But eventually I grew tired of this enthusiasm. With 1 month left in my experience, I knew this was my last opportunity to strike a perfect balance between solitude and adventure. I maintained my motivation to explore, but I stopped demonizing my time alone. Instead, I just restructured it. Instead of spending hours watching Netflix, I would find a way to be creative, whether that was journaling or writing poetry, listening to music, or struggling to write my own. My free time was spent with just myself, now in my own element, instead of absorbing someone else's. It opened me up to new opportunities of both expression and reflection, as I finally solidified the sense of individual self-confidence that I had hoped to gain this semester.